This page represents nice. I don't know if that helps at all.
Mine is saying text 20.
Text 20?
That's what mine is saying. Let me see if it's on. Person who neither rejoices upon. Yeah.
Okay, start with chapter 5. Hallelujah. Action in Krishna consciousness. 6:20. Namprashya priyam bhavya lovicheta vichapriyam Dirapurvirasam bodho brahmavid brahmanisthita. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant, nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, unbewildered, who knows the science of God, is to be understood, is already situated in transcendence. Verse 21. Bhāvyasparshesh asabdhāma vidyāvyāvāya
Sabramayoga yuktatma sukham akshayam ashnute. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure or external objects, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, where he concentrates on the Supreme. Text 22. Ye samsparshaja bhoga dukayunaya evite adyantavante kanteya nateshu ramate buddha. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end. And so the wise man does not delight in them. Text 23. Shaknoti haiva yashodham praksharira vimokshanat kama krodho bhavam vegam sayuktasa sukhi naraha. Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is a yogi and is happy in this world. Text 24. Yontas sukho antaramas tathantar jyotir evayaha sayogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhutho gacchati. One whose happiness is within, who is active within, who rejoices within, and is illumined within, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. Text 25. Labhante brahma nirvanam grishayakshina kalmasaha chinadvaidha yatatmana sarvabhuta hiterataha. One who is beyond duality and doubt, whose mind is engaged within, who is always busy working for welfare of all sentient beings, and who is free from all sins, achieves liberation in the Supreme. Text 26. Kama krodha vimuktanam yatinam yatachetasam apito brahma nirvanam vartate viditatmanam. Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. Text 27 and text 28. Sparshan kritva bahir bhayams chakshush chaivantare bravaho pranapana samakritva nasabhyantara charina Yatendriya mano buddhir muni moksha parayanaha vigate chapaya krodho yasata mukta eva saha. Shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence, the transcendentalist becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. Text 29. Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvaloka maheswaram saridam sarvabhutanam gatamam shantim richati. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. And chapter 6, text 1. Sankhya Yoga. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Anashrita Karma Palam Karyam Karma Karoti Yaha Sasanyasi Cha Yogi Cha Na Niragnir Na Chakriyaha. The Blessed Lord said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life. And he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no work. Very, very nice shloka spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We'll go back to text 20 and we'll read the translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is to be understood as already situated in transcendence. Purport. The symptoms of the self-realized person are given herein. The first symptom is that he is not illusioned by the false identification of the body with his true self. He knows perfectly well that he is not this body, but is the fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is therefore not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament in losing anything which is related to his body. This steadiness of mind is called sthira buddhi, or self-intelligence. He is therefore never bewildered by mistaking the gross body for the soul. Shri Shri Gauranatai Ki Jai. Nor does he accept the body as permanent and disregard the existence of the soul. This knowledge elevates him to the station of knowing the complete science of the absolute truth, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. He thus knows his constitutional position perfectly well, without falsely trying to become one with the Supreme in all respects. This is called Brahman realization or self-realization. Such steady consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. Maharaj, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this shloka and purport.
Krishna is saying that the purpose of this material world is just to not be distracted by it, to go through the lifetime, but to use it for reestablishing oneself in bhakti yoga, in devotional service. The living entities have fallen away from their constitutional position, Sanatan Dharma, their Sanatan Dharma, their eternal duty is to serve Krishna. Somehow they fell down. Krishna Bahirmukha Hana Bhogavan Sakari Nikatista Maya Tari Japati Dari. They turned their face away from the Lord and they became entangled. Avaranatnika. this throwing potency and covering potency. One is thrown out of the spiritual into the material world. And then in that state, he has to reestablish himself, reestablish his link with Krishna through devotional service and through chain of disciplic succession. So that's essential. That's why the 4 primary Vaishnava sampradayas are so important and vital. Because through those channels, one can again reestablish a connection through bhakti yoga and devotional service. And even in one lifetime, he can finish up. It's like here, Krishna is saying, he doesn't rejoice. These type of persons, they're not rejoicing in getting something pleasant nor lamenting over losing something or obtaining something unpleasant. They're self-intelligent. That means they know they're not the body. Not bewildered. They know exactly what they're doing here. And they know the signs of God. Everything belongs to God. Everything is for His service. We're just servants. We can never become God. We never cease to exist. So such a person like this, but you don't find people like this generally in the material world. You won't find people that are not disturbed by unpleasant things and they're not elated over pleasant things. Very difficult. Most people can't do that because they're not trained. They're not trained to see that. They think the goal of life is just these temporary happenings that give them immediately some relief, some pleasure. And they think you go through life and you try to get as many of those happenings and try to avoid the unpleasant things. That's life. And you count them up at the end. They don't understand why one person seems to get so many good opportunities, born in a rich family, good looking, wealthy, really nice things. They don't understand how that's happening. They think that everything happens by chance. Most people have a hard time understanding that God is controlling all the things. It's all part of His plan. And living entities have the chance to practice bhakti yoga undisturbed, without any interruptions, without any motives. Just serve Krishna because it's His duty. It's my duty to serve Krishna. That's what I'm supposed to do. I forgot. Utra Jaitan. That's a nice verse. It says that Kamadina Katina Katina Palita Durnadesha. For so long he's been under the influence of bad masters. Bad masters of lust, anger, and greed, envy. And the poor living entity, he's just been serving them without any payment, without any reward, no relief, no trapa, no prashanti, no peace. But now, recently, the devotee has met another devotee. He's connected with Krishna's devotees, and now Now he knows what he's supposed to do. He's understands the purpose of life again. And now he wants to engage in serving the Lord. So he prays, please engage me in your devotional service and protect me. That's the prayer. Please, Krishna, 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 Payamam, Krishna, 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 Hare, Krishna, 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 Rakshamam, Krishna, 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 Payamam, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Payamam. So protect me, save me, and please engage me in devotional service. So now he knows exactly what he has to do. He won't be distracted for anything. We see that in the case of the great devotees. Nothing disturbs them. Look at Prahlad Maharaj. What an example. He wasn't disturbed by anything. Elephants trampling him, snakes poisoning him, weapons piercing him. So many things. He wasn't disturbed. He just went on with his devotional service. There are many examples like that. Haridas Thakur was roughly treated, beaten, but he just went on with his devotional service. Somehow or other without being disturbed. So, whatever the circumstance, one should be unfazed. It means he doesn't take this material world as being, what's going on here isn't very serious. He doesn't take it as serious business. They think it's very serious, I think. Football team is winning this year again. This is very important. And they can't talk about anything else. But he doesn't think this is important. He doesn't think these music, songs, or books, or newspaper articles, theories on life, he doesn't think any of this is important. He's not interested in voting for non-devotee candidates. Doesn't care about non-devotional, without the news. Even the news is not very interesting to him. He knows the same old thing. There's winter, and there's summer, and there's fall. And they just keep going on, and there's birth, death, old age, disease. Nothing new. Everyone's dying, getting birth again. So people think, oh, well, why is he like this? He doesn't know how to have a good time. No, that's described later on here. He's having a good time because he's rejoicing within. Inside, he's in bliss. Outwardly, he may seem like he's not. He doesn't care about what's happening. Hare Krishna.
Jai, thank you, Maharaj. Yeah, so there's certain themes that are prevalent throughout the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna's reiterating over and over that you should give up anger, give up attachment to loss and gain. What does Krishna say? He says in the beginning, when he first begins instructing Arjuna, Yam hinavyathyante purusham purusharshapa samatuka sukham tiyaram somritatvaya kalpate. One who gives up happiness and distress and rises above this, he's eligible for liberation. Somritatvaya kalpate. He's eligible. So these basic points that Krishna speaks on in the Bhagavad Gita, I mean, I use the word basic, but from a conditioned perspective, it's incredibly complex because we hear it over and over. You're not your body. Okay. Serve God. Don't worry about gain and loss. Okay. We hear it how many times, but how many times are we confronted with this same points over and over? Like, what I mean to say, hindrances on our spiritual path due to being obsessed with our gain, our loss. What kind of work output am I doing and what kind of results am I getting? Or the bodily inconveniences that come along the way. So in this sense, it's simple, but it's very, very complex because it's hard for us to understand, but Krishna's speaking this same message through and through the whole conversation of the Bhagavad Gita. He elaborates and sheds more light on these same points. And even in the Bhagavatam, it's expounded upon much more, which I was thinking of this very point of, not rejoicing upon achieving something pleasant, nor lamenting upon obtaining something unpleasant. Where Lord Brahma prays to Krishna, one who goes on tolerating the past reactions of his past karma, of his sinful reactions, essentially, then liberation is his rightful claim. It's the same thing that Krishna is saying. But Brahma is saying it directly to Krishna, and he's saying it in a context directly, clearly of devotional service. Whereas Krishna speaks in the beginning, and he doesn't say that, so then it leaves Arjuna with questions, so Arjuna asks more questions. Like in the beginning of this chapter, he says, you speak about renunciation, and then you speak about work in devotion. Will you tell me which one is actually more beneficial? So Arjuna was bewildered by Krishna's equivocal instructions. But then he clearly states that work in devotion is better. Giving up the results of our fruits and working in devotion, dovetailing our activities to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. This is by far superior. And in this end of chapter 5, it's really nice because he's clearly showing how a liberated person does not care about the temporary pushes and pulls of the material world. And when Maharaj was speaking, it reminded me of something when I was younger. It's kind of silly, but it kind of relates. It's like, I remember I was watching a horror movie and I was too afraid and I ran out, before seeing the ending, and I had nightmares for a long time thinking of this horror movie. But then later I grew up and I saw it again and I realized it's actually like a comedy horror movie. It's not even supposed to be so scary. It's supposed to be like funny, but I didn't have proper knowledge, so I couldn't see it right. So I was terrified. So similarly, in the material world, without proper knowledge, we're engrossed in the push and pulls and we can't actually see what's going on. So we're left feeling the reactions, which is if you have expectations for happiness, you're going to be let down. You're going to be stressed because if you're trying to gain name, fame, strength, beauty, any of these opulences that are stolen from Krishna, then we're going to be in anxiety about losing these gains that we've amassed. The most grand desire or dream we could fulfill within this material world will not leave us fulfilled. And ultimately, we won't even remember it. According to eternal time, it will just be like a little grain of sand, a little minuscule moment in history. But on the flip side, whatever small, seemingly meaningless, minuscule service we can offer to Krishna has immensely more value, because whatever does not have Krishna connected to it is just a bunch of zeros. But as soon as you add that one in the beginning, it gives it substance. So as we are leaving the material world where we're used to playing out the fantasies and ideas in our minds of chasing dreams of how we'll be happy, and taking up to the rigid path of devotional service, following the rules and regulations given by the scripture and the acharyas, it can seem quite boring, quite stagnant, quite trying to our mind. But Krishna says this, he describes this to Arjuna, he describes how coming to Sattva Gun, in the beginning it tastes like poison, but in the end it tastes like nectar. But in the mode of passion, in the beginning it tastes like nectar, in the end it tastes like poison. So when we're sharp and intelligent, we hear this and we say, oh, that's crystal clear, that makes so much sense. Krishna speaks perfect words. Why? Because we all have practical experience. Who could not say that they embarked on some activity that at first started so fun, so exciting, so pleasurable, and then in the end left a bitter taste or worse in our mouth? But on the flip side, when we're not in a sattvic state to hear Krishna's words, then it's easy to doubt and think, okay, this focus only on the negatives of how tough the process is of surrender, and think, okay, surely it will be better if I could go have a little bit of relief to my problems. But this is foolishness, because Krishna says that fulfilling these material desires will never be fulfilled. It's like trying to put a fire out with ghee or with oil. You may douse it for a moment, but it keeps burning and burning and burning. And the more you add, the more it burns. So we're so fortunate to be able to hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, hear about Him and hear of His words and the pastimes of His pure devotees every single day. You know, Maharaj made a good point. I was just reading, and Srila Prabhupada was making the same exact point, that all we can really do in our approach to the Lord, more or less, is to humbly bow down before Him and pray for Him to reveal, to take away our miseries, take away our anarthas, you know, all the things that are keeping us in this degraded consciousness. You know, this is humility, to bear all before the Lord. From a neophyte perspective, we know nothing. We don't know how to act. We don't know any mantras or prayers or, you know, hardly anything, or transcendental knowledge. Then we learn a little bit, and then we think, I've got it figured out. Nobody can tell me. I got it. I know it. I learned it. Me. But a pure devotee always sees that whatever we have is coming by the grace of Krishna. So a pure devotee, he doesn't see this pleasant or unpleasant. This is what Krishna is saying. He sees everything as a blessing of the Lord. So if something is seemingly unpleasant, it's an opportunity to surrender more, to inquire deeper. Why am I suffering? Why am I suffering? Am I identifying with my body? Did I commit an offense? Am I, you know, not applying my full intelligence, my full energy in Krishna's service? Who was it? It was Pujamani Prabhu. He was here, and somebody asked him about something related to this, and he quoted his Gurudev, saying that pure devotee doesn't have any setbacks or struggles in his service to the Lord. If there's a struggle, it's merely just a stepping stone on his path back to Godhead. So the more struggles there are, they're just there for Lord Krishna to decorate his devotees and show how great they actually are. Because the devotee has nothing to do with this material world. If something good comes, okay, great, we'll take it, we'll use it in Krishna's service. If something bad comes, okay, great, we'll continue on with our devotional service and make do. I remember one time, not so long ago, I was walking on the street, and you know what I found when I looked down? $10 whole. Woo! And then the next day, I was doing some work and I had some headphones and I had a hedge trimmer, and I was hedge trimming for like 2 hours, like, or a long time, you know. And like the very last swipe, the one last branch to go, I did, and I cut my headphones that I was wearing, like the cord. So it's a net loss of $5, but this is a very small scale of what's happening on a large scale in the material world. We're getting a favorable gain. We're thinking, this is great. This will last forever. This is all that I need. I need more of this. And then another setback comes. And we're going back and forth. And we're saying, the setback is tough. I don't like it. And I want more of these positive gains. From a higher perspective, this is madness. It's sheer madness. But as we hear, the soul, the self, is blissful by nature. So that's why Krishna is saying here, which Maharaj mentioned is the next shloka, text 21. A liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure or external objects, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. Enjoying the pleasure within, always being connected to Krishna. This is what we need. Okay, I want to read text 22 real quick because this is a very good shloka. An intelligent person who does not take part in the sources of misery which are due to contact with the material senses. Oh wait, an intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. Purport. Material sense pleasures are due to the contact of the material senses, which are all temporary because the body itself is temporary. A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary. Knowing well the joys of transcendental pleasures, how can a liberated soul agree to enjoy false pleasure? In the Padma Purana, it is said, Ramante yogino nante satyananda chidatmani iti rama padena sa param brahma vidhiyate. The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasure from the absolute truth, and therefore the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Rama. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also said, Nayam deho deha bhajam riloke kashtan kama narhate vinbhujam ye tapo divyam bhuta kagena sattvam shuddhya yasmad brahmasalkyam tvanantam. My dear sons, there is no reason to labor very hard for sense pleasure while in this human form of life. Such pleasures are available to the stool eaters, hogs. Rather, you should undergo penances in this life by which your existence will be purified, and as a result, you will be able to enjoy unlimited transcendental bliss. Bhagavatam 5:5:1. Therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by the sense pleasures, which are the causes of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he is entrapped by material miseries. So the first thing that comes to my mind is the learned transcendentalist. It says, I'm trying to think of this shloka. I forget. Yeah, I forget the first line. Maybe it's Yatato Yapi Kanteya. There's Purushasyam Vipaschitaha Indriyani Pramatini Haranti Prasapa Manaha. Even a learned person, he can very easily, like his senses, carry him away, just one of the roaming senses. So we can be aware of all this knowledge, but still we're just a little bit slacked, relaxed, taking it easy. And one of our senses just like the wind goes away. And what does Arjuna say? Controlling the mind's harder than controlling the wind. So how difficult it is. We have to be aware of it and constantly bring our mind back. Practice detachment. Detachment. So many thoughts arise when our senses contact the object of the senses. So many desires that we know that we have, and so many desires that are embedded in our heart that we're unaware that we have. So they manifest from time to time. So we have to be diligent in practicing detachment. Okay, that's cool. I mean, it's not cool, but that happened. Big deal. Bring it back. My purpose is to serve Krishna. This is where my happiness is at. And this is particularly nice how Prabhupada is quoting this shloka, which is referring to doing this tapodivyam, this divine austerity to purify ourselves, to enjoy unlimited transcendental bliss by rendering service to the Lord. This is what Krishna is saying. Give up the temporary happiness and distress of this world. And then ultimately, at the last shloka in 29, he says, the sages knowing means the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. So there's the answer, doing Bhoktaram Yugatasam. Krishna, he's the beneficiary of all sacrifices and penances. So whatever we do, we should do for whom? For whom? Krishna. How do we know what austerities to do for Krishna? Well, that's there, but how does Krishna manifest himself? Yes, but specifically, the spiritual master. Krishna manifests himself within as Chaitya Guru and without as the spiritual master to instruct us and guide us in the proper way to act. So maybe somebody has a comment or a thought or a question or doubt or a reflection. So why are you getting up? All the way over there? We just have to remember Krishna and serve Krishna and chant the holy names of Krishna. And then it will restore our natural Krishna consciousness. And this is desirable because Krishna's devotee showed us why it's desirable. So let us never forget that.
So this is the
The
question.
moment we do, then we get cut off of mercy.
This is a question. I have two questions. One from Maharaj's comment and one from your class. The one from Maharaj's comment, I was wondering, he was talking about when someone forgets Krishna and then he comes down to this material world. So I was wondering why one forgets Krishna and what influences him. And then the second question that I had was about your horror movie story. So the question is the material world like a horror movie when we're not Krishna, like before we come to Krishna consciousness, and like a comedy when we become fully Krishna conscious?
No, the point is that when I watched this movie, I was affected by the emotions and everything that came along with it, but it was improper understanding. Then when I had proper understanding, I could see that, oh, there's no reason that I should be fearful or be disturbed in any way. So similarly, in the material world, we're disturbed. You know, like you're watching a movie. You're so involved in it. But then Krishna is saying here how the transcendentalist, he's above these things. He's not affected by it. So then he could see, oh, it's not even real. You get the point? And as far as how we fell from the spiritual world, I'm not really going to address that in detail now, but somehow or other we have a desire to enjoy separately from Krishna. And this is the source of all of our problems, which brings us to associate with the modes of material nature that lock us up in this material world. Anything else? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna.
Yeah, just kind of whenever you said some desire to enjoy separately from Krishna, that's the only thing right now that's keeping me away from Krishna. So why don't I just address that? I'm actively cultivating desires to not be with Krishna, but he's saying, come back to me. So that's my real problem. No reason not to just address that one.
You understand? Meaning, don't worry about how we came here or why we came here. Just worry about why we're here and how to get out of here. Which is because we're trying to enjoy separately from Krishna. So if we turn to Krishna, then all of our problems will go away. Okay, so that's time, unless anybody has any final concluding words. Krishna? Krishna? Krishna! Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Gauranatai ki jai. Pancha Kapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhabhi Vachapatitanam Pavanabhi Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah.